I have copied and pasted the employee updates a room's daily rate use scenario so that we can walk through this together. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and let's go ahead and jump into this. So an employee updates the room's daily rate. So the use scenario starts on the home page. The employee clicks login. So here we're going to see another common interaction is going to be a logging in interaction. And let's see what this looks like. So what happens? So the employee clicks login. What does the user see? They see a login pop-up. So this could be said to be a form as well, right? Because we want to get the user's data. So whoops, I'm going to press enter where after it says clicks, and I'm going to create a bullet point, and I'm going to say employee calls user interface. Remember, class 1 calls class 2 method. And then what method? Display, because that is the only method that the user interface has. And what are they trying to display? Well, they're trying to display the login pop-up. So I'm going to say login form. I'm going to say it's a layout. Okay, so then what? So now that we've made class 1 is called class 2 method, class 2 needs to return something from back to class 1. So we're going to say user interface, and remember again, that sounds a bit confusing because this isn't actually a class, but you can think of it in that way for now. So user interface returns login form, and I'm just bringing this information down here, login form to employee. Okay, so now they're going to see that login pop up. They're going to enter a bunch of, well, not really a bunch, they're going to enter their username and password, right, to log in. Then they're going to click login. So what do they see after they log in? They're going to see a list of rooms and rates. So if I look at the product backlog, we did not have a list of rooms and rates for the user to see once they created their accounts. Why? Because we didn't have a list of rooms yet. But if you look in the employee actions section, you'll see that we do. We have rooms now in our system. So those have been added. So this is something that we need to go and talk to in our system at this point. So they're going to log in, and then when they get done logging in, they're going to see the list of all the rooms and their rates. So I'm going to click enter. I'm going to create a bullet point, and we're going to start talking with our system. So the employee calls user interface display, dot display, and then it's going to display what? It's going to display the home page layout. Okay, so what's the next step? So how do we go into our system and get that home page? So what the system's going to, or what the user interface is going to do is going to call that user list. Okay, so it's going to say user interface and it calls user list. Well, I thought that we were trying to see the rooms and their rates. Well, we are, but we got to log the user in first, right? They're trying to log in. And so after they're done logging in, they're going to see that. But first we got to log them in. So user interface calls user list dot login. So let's make sure that that method is there. Yep, login. And then we want to add our parameters. So username and password. Okay, what happens next? Well, the user list is going to return employee object to user interface. Now, in this system, I don't have the validate password. Oops, let's jump back up here. The validate password in my user. And if that's something that you have in yours, go and look at the coffee shop ordering system, and it will show you how to do a login with that validate password interaction as well. But for now, we're just going to leave it off. So user interface calls user list login. We're gonna just understand that it found that object and it's returning it back to the user interface. So then, what's the next step? Oh, I unindented, but we need one more step because we got the user object, but we don't have the rooms and their rates. So now we say user interface. Oops. So we want to get the rooms. So user interface calls get rooms, and then room list returns the list of room objects to the user interface. Perfect. So we've logged the user in these two steps, then we've gotten the room list, and now we just need to display it to the user. So we're going to say, we're going to unindent because this is, we're having the user interface now return something back to the employee actor. So we're going to say user interface returns the list of room objects to employee. And I'm not going to be picky if you want to say homepage view instead of list of room objects. I mean, either way, that's what they're displaying, right? They're going to be displaying that list of rooms. So this could be something, instead of returns the list of room objects, it could be returns home page view to employee. I'm not super picky as long as it works and it makes sense, and then I'll accept it. Just come to these examples again. Look at these examples and see what I have written and make sure that yours matches mine in style. Okay, so then we say the employee sees the list of all the rooms and their rates. Then employee clicks edit next to room 202. Okay, so this is the edit one that I was talking about. I'm going to put a return in because we're going to start putting system interactions because there's a click and a see. So employee clicks edit, employee sees room form populated with room 202 details. So here we're getting a form. It is a form, but it's populated. So we need to make sure we need to get that item to populate that form first. So here we say employee calls user interface dot display. What are we displaying? We're displaying the edit room view because the employee's calling it. So the edit view of room details. Now, if it was just a customer calling this, we would just say, if we're just trying to view the room, we would just say call room details. But this is going to be in a specific view since the employee can edit. So we're saying edit view room detail. And then the next call we're going to say user interface calls room.get room. And then the room returns room details to user interface. So now that user interface can use those room details to populate the form. So the user interface then returns edit view room details to employee. Oops. And there we go. So now we have employee sees form populated with room 202 details. We see that the employee changes the rate here, and then they click save. Okay, so that click, they saved it. Now what do we do with that data? So let's go and look. Remember we talked about this? The room has an update button, so we can update certain pieces of information. So once we get down to clicking save, we're going to add some more system steps. So I'm going to say employee calls user interface dot display, and this is going to be the part where we're saving that information. So we're going to be calling room update. But what are we going to see when we're done? We're going to see a list of updated details. So we're going to say display home page layout. Okay, so then the user interface is going to call the room.update method. And what do we pass in there? We're going to pass in our changed rate. So I'm just going to say rate. And then we're going to say room returns a success signal to user interface saying, hey, that worked. Then, because we are returning a list of updated details, we need to update our list. So now that our object has been updated, we need to reload our list. So we're going to say user interface calls room list get rooms, room list returns list of rooms objects to user interface, and then the user interface returns home page view to, let me change that here, home page view to user or to employee. And you could say, before we do that, or we'll say that and then we'll say user interface closes edit room form. So now we return the information and we close the form. All right, that is the entire extended use scenario for the employee updates room daily rate.